There's a moment, a very specific moment, when something inside you breaks. Someone betrays you, humiliates you, hurts you so deeply that your mind goes quiet, not empty, but focused. Focused on one thing only: payback. Because if they burned you, why shouldn't you burn them back? Cut to close-up. Eyes reflecting city lights. Calm, but burning inside. You're watching this because maybe, somewhere deep down, you felt it too. That urge to get even. That dark whisper that says, they deserve it. But what if I told you, revenge isn't about them at all? It's about you, your brain, your emotions, your identity. And once you understand it, you'll never look at revenge the same way again. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? Let's see how many of us are awake thinking about this tonight. And while you're here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because what we're about to uncover might just change how you see human nature forever. Every story of revenge begins with betrayal. It doesn't matter if it's love, friendship, business, or power. Betrayal is the psychological earthquake that cracks your trust in half. Your brain treats betrayal like physical pain. MRI scans show that when someone you love hurts you, the same regions light up as if you've been physically wounded. That's why heartbreak hurts. That's why betrayal burns. But revenge, revenge offers a drug stronger than morphine: control. When someone wrongs you, your brain screams, "Do something." That's your amygdala, the emotional command center, lighting up in anger. But here's the twist. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational part, shuts down. You're not thinking anymore. You're reacting. Your logic is gone. All that's left is instinct. And instinct wants blood. Revenge doesn't begin with violence. It begins with imagination. You start replaying what they did. You imagine confronting them, exposing them, destroying them. And each fantasy releases dopamine, the pleasure chemical. It feels good to imagine payback because your brain confuses imagined justice with real justice. That's why you can't stop thinking about it. You're addicted, not to revenge itself, but to the idea of it. Psychologists call this revenge rumination, the endless cycle of replaying pain and rewriting it with victory. But what you don't realize is, every replay strengthens the neural path of anger. Your brain builds a highway between pain and rage, so now even small things trigger the storm again. Soon, you're not angry because of them anymore. You're angry because your mind learned to be. We tell ourselves revenge is about justice, that we just want what's fair. But the truth is, our version of justice is personal. Humans evolved with a deep need for moral balance. In primitive tribes, revenge wasn't emotional, it was survival. If someone hurt your kin and you didn't strike back, you looked weak. And weakness meant extinction. Even today, those instincts live inside us. The desire to restore balance, to say, "You can't do this to me and get away with it." It's not just anger, it's identity repair. When someone betrays you, they don't just hurt your heart, they shatter your sense of self. You start questioning your worth. You think, "How could they do this to me?" And the answer your brain gives is simple: because they think they can. So revenge becomes the way you remind yourself that you still matter, that you're still strong, that you can still hurt back. It's not justice you want. It's validation. Revenge activates the striatum, the brain's reward center, the same area that lights up when you win money, eat chocolate, or fall in love. That's why revenge feels satisfying at first. It's the same mechanism that drives addiction. Your mind gives you a dopamine rush for planning revenge, not for achieving it. But once it's done, The high fades, and what's left is the emptiness that no amount of vengeance can fill. The brain isn't designed for sustained hatred. It's designed for closure. Yet when closure doesn't come naturally, we create it ourselves through revenge. The irony of revenge is this: you become what you hate. You justify every move with, "They deserve it." You tell yourself you're restoring balance, but deep down, you're losing it. Revenge consumes time, energy, peace. It doesn't just hurt the target, it rewires you. You start living inside your own obsession. A study at the University of Zurich found that even after taking revenge, people's anger didn't go away, it increased. Because revenge doesn't end the story. It extends it. It keeps you chained to the person you hate, even when they've moved on. They hurt you once, but every time you think about it, you hurt yourself again. You stand there, finally face to face. The moment you've been waiting for, and you expect satisfaction. That rush of victory, that justice you've dreamed about. But it doesn't come. You see their face, and suddenly you realize nothing you do now will change what they did. They've already taken something from you that revenge can't restore: your peace. Because revenge doesn't heal wounds, it feeds them. That's why so many revenge stories end not with victory, but with regret. Revenge rewires your soul. It makes you a stranger to yourself. What began as pain turned into purpose. What began as justice turned into obsession. And when obsession takes over, you stop being the victim and start becoming the villain. That's the darkest twist in the psychology of revenge. It disguises destruction as healing. You think you're burning down their house, but you're standing inside it. The betrayer. You think this will make you feel better? The man. It already has. But does it really? Or does revenge simply drag you deeper into the darkness The night was colder than usual. The city streets glowed faintly under the half-dead lamps, each flicker matching the pulse in Armand's head. He wasn't the same man who once believed in justice. Now, every thought, every breath, was poisoned by one word: revenge. He stood outside the old cafe where everything had fallen apart. It wasn't the place that haunted him. It was the memory, the betrayal, the humiliation, the silent witnesses who looked away when he screamed for truth. Psychologists call this the cognitive loop, the brain's refusal to let go of unfinished pain. When someone wrongs us deeply, the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, lights up like a firestorm. We replay the wound again and again, believing that if we just imagine payback, maybe it'll stop hurting. But it doesn't. It only burns deeper. Armand started following Khalid, the man who ruined his life. Not physically, at first. He studied him online, read every post, every business article. He watched how Khalid smiled for cameras, shook hands with politicians, built a life on lies. Each time Armand saw that smile, a storm brewed inside him. That's when the brain's reward system betrays us. Psychologists say revenge activates the same circuits as pleasure. Dopamine floods the system. The idea of making them pay feels just as good as winning. But the irony? That high is temporary. Like a drug, it needs more fuel, more hate, more justification. Armand stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He was now addicted, not to justice, but to the illusion of control. Late one night, Armand looked at himself in the mirror. Eyes bloodshot, hands trembling. He whispered, "He deserves it." That's how revenge begins to rewrite morality. Our brain creates a narrative bias. We become the hero of our own story, no matter how dark it gets. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become one." Armand didn't realize he already had. He began planning every move like a chess player, cold, precise, detached. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance reduction, the way we silence guilt by rationalizing evil as necessary. To him, revenge wasn't cruelty. It was balance. A week later, Armand finally saw Khalid in person. It was at a charity gala, the kind of event where hypocrisy wears perfume. Armand walked in, blending with the crowd. Every heartbeat sounded like a countdown. From the outside, he looked calm. Inside, he was a storm waiting to explode. The limbic system, emotion, was at war with the prefrontal cortex, logic. Science says revenge feels instinctively right. But it's the logical brain that whispers, "This will destroy you too." That whisper, though, was buried under the thunder of hate. As Armand approached Khalid, flashes of the past collided with the present. The betrayal, the humiliation, the cold laughter echoing in the courtroom years ago. Khalid turned. Their eyes met. A simple smile, casual, dismissive, reignited every scar. And in that moment, revenge became a living thing. Armand followed him to the parking lot after the event. The air was heavy, filled with the scent of rain and regret. Each step echoed with purpose. As Khalid reached for his car keys, Armand whispered his name. The man froze. "Do you remember me?" No answer. "You should. You took everything." For a moment, there was silence, that dangerous kind of silence where time itself hesitates. Khalid turned, fear flickering behind arrogance. "You still think you were the victim?" Khalid spat. The words were gasoline. Armand stepped closer. "Victim? Not anymore." In his mind, this was justice. But psychology tells another story. Neuroscientists have found that when revenge is carried out, the ventral striatum, the brain's pleasure center, spikes briefly. Then it crashes. Hard. That crash is guilt, emptiness, and disillusion. Because revenge doesn't fix the past, it only spreads the pain forward. Armand's shaking hand proved it. The moment he acted, the fire that kept him alive went out. Hours later, he sat in his apartment, staring at nothing. The world was quiet again. Too quiet. He thought revenge would feel like triumph, but it felt like silence. Psychologists call this the post-revenge void. When the brain loses its emotional anchor, hate, anger, obsession, it collapses into numbness. He had spent years feeding the beast. Now, the beast was gone. And what was left? A hollow man, haunted by echoes. In that silence, he realized something terrifying. He didn't destroy Khalid. He destroyed himself, trying to destroy Khalid. Months passed. Armand moved to a smaller town, living quietly, almost invisibly. One evening, as he sat by the river, a young boy approached him, bruised, angry. "They hurt me," the boy said. "I want to hurt them back." Armand looked at him and saw his past reflected in the boy's eyes. For the first time, he spoke softly. "Don't let their darkness make you forget your own light." It was a sentence he wished someone had told him years ago. Revenge, he realized, isn't power. It's possession. It owns you, eats you, and leaves only ashes. And as he watched the river flow, calm, endless, he finally let the past drift away. Revenge feels human because it is. Evolution built it as a survival mechanism, a way to deter betrayal and maintain social balance. But in the modern world, revenge has lost its purpose. When we're hurt, Our mind creates a distorted sense of justice. We confuse healing with hurting. We think closure comes from the other person's pain, when in truth, closure only begins when we stop bleeding inside. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's rebellion, because it denies the enemy power over your peace. The sweetest revenge is healing so deeply that their memory can no longer hurt you. Revenge always promises peace. It whispers that once you make them feel your pain, the storm inside you will fade. But here's the truth. When the storm clears, you're still standing in the ruins of yourself. For years, Armin believed pain was currency, that if he could make them suffer, maybe his own suffering would feel justified. But the human mind doesn't trade like that. The brain doesn't forgive you just because you fought back. It remembers. It keeps score. He sits near the window. The rain blurs everything outside, like the world itself doesn't want to be seen. A faint voice from behind. Still can't sleep, can you? It's Dr. Meher, the psychologist who had once tried to help him before his spiral began. Arman gives a half smile. Sleep isn't the problem anymore. Dreams are. Dreams, that's where guilt hides. That's where revenge shows you its real face. Dr. Meher, softly. You think revenge gave you closure, but what it gave you was control. For a moment, you weren't the victim anymore. You were the judge, the executioner. But that power, it doesn't heal. It just makes you addicted. Arman, I thought if I made him pay, I'd stop hurting. Dr. Meher, did you? Arman doesn't answer, just stares into his coffee cup, a reflection of his face trembling with the raindrops. Neuroscientists say that revenge activates the reward center of the brain, the same area that lights up when you win, eat chocolate, or feel love. That's why it feels so good. At first, but the dopamine doesn't last. The guilt does. Scene shows brain imagery dissolving into the cafe setting, the neurons flickering like lightning in Arman's mind. Arman, soft voice. When I saw him break, I felt powerful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one begging for mercy. But that power, it didn't last. It left me the same night he did. Dr. Meher, because power isn't peace, Arman. It's just noise. And when the noise ends, you meet yourself again. Arman nods slowly. A tear rolls down, but he doesn't wipe it away. Psychology calls it the revenge paradox. You chase it to heal your pain, but it's the very thing that deepens your wound. Because every time you replay the hurt, your brain doesn't know it's a memory. It relives it. It bleeds again. Visual montage, Arman walking through his empty home, the echoes of arguments still haunting the walls. Narrator, haunted. That's why forgiveness isn't about them. It's about taking your mind off the battlefield it never left. Scene. Later that night, Arman walks to the bridge, the one where it all started. He looks over the edge, the city lights reflecting below like tiny sparks of hope. He takes out a folded paper, a photo of his younger self and the man who betrayed him. Before it all went wrong, he stares at it, then lets it fall. The paper dances in the wind before landing in the river. Soft piano music swells. Narrator, that's how healing begins, not with grand apologies or perfect justice, but with letting go of the version of yourself that couldn't stop hurting. Camera pans up to Arman's face, rain falling over him, his eyes finally at peace. Narrator, deeper tone. In the end, revenge doesn't change the past. It only rewrites your future in the same ink of pain. But understanding it, that is where power lies. The psychology of revenge isn't about hate. It's about hunger, the hunger to matter again. Once you feed it with awareness, not anger, the mind starts to heal. Slow fade, heartbeat sound fades into silence. If you've ever been hurt so deeply that you imagined revenge, know this: your pain was valid, but your peace is still waiting. You don't have to destroy to rebuild. Sometimes the greatest revenge is walking away, free. Screen darkens, soft text appears. Revenge dies, peace lives. If this story made you think, if it made you feel something, tell me in the comments. Do you believe revenge ever truly ends pain? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And before you go, like this video if it made you reflect. Subscribe for more deep psychological stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Because understanding the mind is the first step to mastering it.